Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another one of our Irwin Mitchell virtual sessions. It's lovely to see you all on the call today, and thank you for joining us. So for today's session, we're going to be talking about our offices that are outside London, beyond Big Ben, and the work that we do in those offices, and you'll be hearing from the people in those offices as well. So my name's Georgina Naylor. I'm one of the early careers managers at Irwin Mitchell, and I'm based in our Sheffield office. I'll be leading the event today, and as I say, you'll be hearing from various colleagues from across Irwin Mitchell and across the country. So at Irwin Mitchell, we have around 50 training contracts across all of our different offices, and about 10 to 12 of those are in London. So many more of our training contracts are outside of London. Many more opportunities in our regional offices. And for London, we usually have around 1,500 people who complete an online assessment. A huge amount, is extremely competitive. But for some of our other offices, so Manchester, we have around 600 applications, Leeds around 300, Birmingham around 400, Bristol and Sheffield get around 200, and the smaller offices, Cambridge, Newcastle around 100, and then Chichester, Reading, Gatwick, Southampton have around 50. So as you can see, the numbers are much reduced in those regional offices. And therefore, it's worth thinking about a position or a career outside of London. But that shouldn't be your only driving force for applying for one of our regional offices. It should be obviously that you're interested in the work that those offices provide, and obviously life outside of London. So we're just going to move on to the next slide to have a look at the different places you could be working. So you can see from the slide there that you need to pick a location, and we have 18 different locations. Now, with those locations, only 12 of them take trainees, and there are 11 outside of London. So I'll just go through those for you. So in Birmingham, we take around 8 to 10 trainees. In Bristol, around 1 to 2. Cambridge, we have around 2 to 3 trainees. Chichester, we take 1 to 2. Gatwick, we take 2 to 3. Leeds, we have about 7 to 8 trainees. Manchester has about 7 to 8 as well. Newcastle has 2 to 3. Reading has 1 trainee. Sheffield has around 5 to 7 trainees. And Southampton has around 1 to 2 trainees. So lots of opportunity outside of London. When you pick a location, you'll also need to think about which area of law you want to work in, as not every office has every type of area or every practice area of law. So if we just move on to the next slide, you can see these are our areas of work, our client service areas. So we offer 2 streams at Irwin Mitchell. So that's legal services for businesses on the left-hand side, and legal services for individuals on the right-hand side. So within these streams, you can see we've got numerous different departments. So if you've got an interest in a specific location or a specific team, do have a look on the early careers pages, and it'll detail which departments are in which office. So today we're going to talk about the reasons for working outside of London. And you've probably heard the reasons for working in London. So quality of work often gets mentioned. The salary is much higher. The social life could be seen to be better in London. There's larger teams. You'll hear you might build a network for yourself, or you'll make a name for yourself in that market. And after university, I worked in London myself for 15 years. So I do understand the pull of the bright lights that it offers. But having moved back to Sheffield, I now enjoy a much shorter commute to the office. A nice green area, a lovely house with a view, cheaper haircuts, cheaper roast dinners, cheaper houses, and my accent is a little bit understood now I'm back in Sheffield. So we're going to hear some people from across the business, as I say, in our different areas, about why they've decided to work outside of London, the type of work they do, and why you should consider it as well. So I'm just going to move over to 2 of our colleagues in Birmingham. So I'm going to bring on Sally and Alice, and you can hear from them.
Hello everyone, so my name is Sally and I am a solicitor in our lifestyle and estate planning team in the Birmingham office. So lifestyle and estate planning is what you may know as private client. So I'm born and bred in the Midlands, not in Birmingham, just south of Birmingham. And I am a countryside girl. I was a farmer's daughter. And so when I was looking to go to university, I was really looking to get out of the countryside and into the city. So I went to university up in York and I studied my law degree up there. And following university, I took a gap year where I travelled. And on my gap year, I got my training contract. And I returned then to the UK to do my LPC at the University of Law. The first thing to note about when I was getting my training contract was I wanted to make sure that I was applying to a firm which I wanted to train at rather than a location I wanted to train at. So I looked at a firm where I knew I would get the most out of my career, and that would align to my career goals. I moved to London for a short time before starting my training contract. And then when I did my training contract, I was actually back outside of London, and I did majority of my training contract in Worcester. Although the firm I trained at had lots of different offices, and I did have to move around. So I enjoyed moving different offices and seeing different parts of the firm and different areas. And after qualifying, I made sure I chose again a team and a department that I knew I would really enjoy working in rather than the location as such. After a few years of qualification, I then moved on from the firm that I trained at and I moved to Irwin Mitchell, where I am today in the Birmingham office. So I ended up in the Midlands and in Birmingham because I chose a firm that or I chose a training contract that I thought would really suit me, suit my interests, and help my career. And after starting and qualifying, I started to find a name for myself in the Midlands and working in the Midlands, and that's how I've ended up in Birmingham. As I said, I'm a country girl at heart, but love working in the city and love having the contrast between the countryside and the buzziness of the city. And Birmingham is the second largest city outside of, obviously, after London. And I love the buzziness that the Birmingham office has. Our offices are lovely. We're in a big glass building at the end of Colmore Row. Great clean offices. You can see on the screen there, we've got a gym, great facilities. So I don't feel that I've compromised in any way by working outside of London there. Irwin Mitchell as well, we have lots of offices across the country and we're really keen on client sharing and being interconnected between the offices. So our work is high quality, whichever office you're in. We share clients, we share resources, we talk to other partners, other members across different offices, whether that's London, Sheffield, Bristol, everywhere. So I feel that we all get a great career, whether you're in London or outside. I think the quality of the work that's available in Birmingham is reflected by the other tenants we have in the office. So the other floors or the other businesses that are in the office are other law firms, international firms, barristers, big insurance brokers, big insurance firms. And I just think that's a testament to the work that's available in Birmingham. I'll hand over to Alice, who's a trainee in Birmingham.
Hi everyone, my name is Alice and I am a trainee solicitor in the Birmingham office. I am currently in my first seat in the asbestos and occupational disease team. A little bit about me. I am originally from Wolverhampton, which is just outside of Birmingham. I have always been a city girl myself. So I did move up north to do my straight law degree at the University of Liverpool. I graduated in 2018 and then took a year out and moved to Athens to do some volunteering for a while. I got my first paralegal job in Wolverhampton in January 2019 at a high street family law firm. I was around there for about 2.5 years, and I also did my LPC part-time at Staffordshire University simultaneously. But I always wanted to live and work in Birmingham. As Sally said, there's such a buzz about the city. It's a great community. So I was constantly keeping an eye out on jobs, specifically at Irwin Mitchell, because it had such a great reputation. And I got a job as a paralegal in the Wills Trust and Estate Disputes team, who you'll be hearing from later. In May 2021. So I was there as a paralegal for around 3 years and then started my training contract this year. And yeah, like I said, I'm in my first seat. So I am actually controversially very patriotic to the Midlands. I personally think that Birmingham has a really bad reputation, but I think it's a great place to be. And I think it's really beneficial to be in the Birmingham office as a junior lawyer. Without stating the obvious, obviously we are an extremely central office and we have great connections to the other offices. And as a paralegal and as a trainee, I can count multiple times where I've been asked to go to other offices. I've been to London, Leeds, Sheffield, and Manchester to do mediations, meetings, hearings. Sometimes these are last minute. And if you can put your hand up and say, yes, I can get there really easily because I am central, then that's going to be really beneficial for you. And another positive in my point of view is how well Birmingham looks after its networking organisations. I know one of the attractions to going into London is that you can really make a name for yourself and grow loads of contacts. But I think Birmingham does that really well here. So we have networking organisations like the Birmingham Law Society, who I believe is the second biggest law society in the UK. And we also have the Birmingham Trainee Solicitor Society, which obviously focuses its attention on trainees, and the Birmingham Solicitors Group as well. And because we have a smaller centre in Birmingham compared to London, you've got a better chance of actually getting involved in those organisations, making a great name for yourself, building and forging relationships, and actually becoming involved in the committees themselves. So I've been involved in the Birmingham Solicitors Group Committee for the last 2 years. Hopefully I'm going to stay on for another year as well. And I am not 100% sure whether I would have been able to have the opportunity to get involved in committees like that if I was in London, because there would have been so many more applicants. So I know that it might seem like Birmingham is quite small compared to London, but I think even if you believe that, which I don't necessarily think is the case, the opportunities there, are potentially even bigger. So yeah, that's why I enjoy being in Birmingham.
Hi everyone, I think you're handing over to me, aren't you now? So I'm Guy, I'm a partner in the National Medical Negligence team and based out of our Cambridge office. So I went to Birmingham University actually, and where I did my law and French degree, and then went on to Nottingham to do my LPC. And I started way back in 2002 as a trainee at IM. And a little bit like Sally, it was the firm and the areas of work that I was choosing rather than the location. And it was back when we used to rotate around the offices. So I did my first year in Sheffield and then my second year in the Birmingham office. Qualified then into the Birmingham Medical Negligence team, where I spent just over 10 years before I moved to Cambridge when we opened that lovely office, which is now 10 years old, in fact, this year. So I've been asked to cover Cambridge, Bristol and Southampton, and actually there are a lot of similarities between those three offices. They've been operating in those locations for a similar amount of time, Bristol a little bit longer, but in fact actually the medical negligence teams in those locations are fully merged, and we work really, really closely together, and I think that's true of many of the other teams that work out of those offices. So aside from Med-Neg, there's also serious injury, court of protection, public law and AOD, where there are opportunities for trainees to rotate in each of those departments. But we also have a variety of other teams that work with us in those locations, usually supported by teams in other IM locations such as family law, private client work, all sorts of other things, so that we can offer that wraparound care for our clients. So I haven't actually spent any of my career based in the London office, although I've spent plenty of time visiting it and going to council's chambers in London and appearing before the courts in London. And I know there are, as George says, there's some prospective trainees that think you need to be in London to ensure the best quality of work or the best training or career opportunities. And it's just not been my experience. I can honestly say that I've never felt that my career has in any way been adversely affected by not being in the big smoke. In fact, probably quite the opposite. Being outside London has actually afforded me some brilliant opportunities that I probably otherwise wouldn't have had. There's always been a route for progression for me from trainee to partner. The work has always been of the highest quality, and that remains the case. And as brilliant as our London teams are, and they are really, really brilliant, there are actually many of our, in fact, probably most of our landmark cases nationally come from our regional offices. And the same is true for the rest of the team as well. For instance, one of our Med Neg solicitors in Cambridge came in as a lateral hire as an NQ and has progressed through the ranks to associate and then to senior associate within 6 years, which is pretty rapid progression, really. And there are lots of other examples I could give you around the Southampton and Bristol teams. From a personal perspective, I've been able to build a national profile for my work in a way that practicing outside London hasn't made the slightest bit of difference, really. Why do I love working in Cambridge? Well, Cambridge itself is a stunning city. There's so much going on in terms of arts and sports, independent shops and restaurants. I'm maybe a bit biased, but I think we have the nicest office in the whole IM network, with the perfectly stacked snack jars, which is something to behold. The countryside around it is beautiful and readily accessible. I'd say that London is close enough to visit for work and non-work, but far enough away to feel like you've escaped the grind. And as I've got a bit older, Cambridge has been an amazing place to raise a family and put down roots as well. So I know, some of our colleagues that are based in the Cambridge office live out actually in Norfolk or Suffolk near the coast, or one of the other lovely towns and cities. So, it offers, I think, a perfect balance. And if there was somebody here extolling the virtues of Bristol and Southampton, I'm sure they'll be saying much the same thing. I'm going to bring in Sophie at this stage. She's one of our current trainees who can give you her perspective.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Sophie. I'm a second year trainee in our Cambridge office. So I'm currently working with Guy in our medical negligence team. So I did my undergrad law degree at the University of Kent, which is based in Canterbury. So quite a similar field to Cambridge, really. And then I studied my LPC at the University of Law at their Norwich campus. So I am originally from the Norfolk-Suffolk border, so a bit like Sally, I'm a bit of a country girl. I've always been outside and it's just always appealed to me. So I think when I started looking for training contracts, that regional feel was something that really appealed to me. And that's kind of where I started my search, because you've got to start somewhere. And that was what I landed on. So I think from there, what drew me to Erwin Mitchell was, like Guy said, the quality of the work. And I'm really seeing the benefit of it now that I'm in the team. So, I mean, as I'm in medical negligence, you can see that the quality of work is just unbelievable. I'm working with colleagues that are really very highly ranked in the legal 500, and it shows. We've got cases going on at the minute in the Cambridge office that are settling for multi-millions of pounds, and it's just something that's unbelievable to work from. You're learning from the very best, and it really shows. So I don't think that because I'm out of London, I'm missing out on anything in terms of quality of work. Also, in terms of the work in Cambridge, I personally grew up in East Anglia, so it's quite nice to be able to see clients that you are helping in the area that I grew up in. There's something quite nice about almost recognizing a postcode and being like, oh, I'm actually helping people that might have gone to my high school, or I know that won't apply to everyone, but that's what, part of the reason that's really drawn me in. And we do work as the firm, but to draw that in, we also do business development. Owen Mitchell has a lot of charity partners, and being able to see the effects of that charity work in the area that you are familiar with and you grew up in, there's something really special about that, and it's something that does mean a lot to me. So it's something to kind of think about when you're thinking about where you want to end up, what impact do you want to have on where you're working. I know that it's already also been previously mentioned, but in terms of building your network in the area, I think working at a regional firm is a great place to do that. So from my experience in Cambridge, there's a great Cambridge Junior Lawyers Division that I'm on the committee on for this year, and hopefully will be next year as well. And I think because we're working in a smaller area, you're seeing more familiar faces, and it's lovely that you can kind of develop those stronger connections because you're seeing people regularly at all these events. And it's just been such a great way to build a network in an area that you may not have been familiar with before. So I hadn't lived in Cambridge. It was nice to move here, and you can quite easily build up those connections with people that you are seeing regularly. I'm also not biased, but the Cambridge office itself is brilliant. As Guy said, Cambridge is a lovely area. And it does feel like you get the best of both worlds. So Cambridge has some very good transport links to the rest of the country, including London. I mean, you can get there in less than an hour, I think, from Cambridge. So if you need to hop down to London to get to the Royal Courts of Justice, you can easily do so. So yeah, I definitely feel like Cambridge itself has the best of both worlds. But in terms of the other regional offices, there are some really significant draws that shouldn't be discounted because it's not London. I can't speak for Southampton, but I have been to the Bristol office, and it is very nice indeed. I think it's just all been refurbed quite recently. But yeah, so definitely worth considering.
Hello everyone, I think you're handing over to me now. Apologies for the voice, I have a slight cold, so hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm Samantha Ewing, I'm a legal director in the Wills, Trust and Estate Disputes team, and I'm based in the Chichester office. I'm Sussex born and bred, so Chichester is my local office. Bit of background for me, I actually studied law at the University in Bristol. As was the case back then, it was the LPC route for me. And then I trained at a firm that actually merged with Owen Mitchell a few years ago. So I've been at the firm overall for quite some years, and I've worked from trainee solicitor up to legal director now. I've always worked in a regional office. I never had any desire to work in London, but as people have said before, I don't think that's had any impact on my career progression or my profile or my ability to attract clients or high quality work. The regional office in Chichester is fantastic. I'm sure you'll hear that a lot throughout this presentation. Everyone's keen on their own offices, but Chichester is fantastic. It's a real private client hub. So if that's an area of law that you're interested in, Chichester is definitely something to consider. We've got lifetime and estate planning teams, including tax and trust administration. We've got elderly and vulnerable teams, as well as probate administration. We've got will, trust and estate disputes, obviously. We've got a family team, and we've got real estate. So teams that really work quite closely together. There's lots of opportunity for referrals of clients, and just to work together quite closely on matters. So it's really good that you've got a kind of a close-knit community of colleagues that you can talk to. Just on some profile within the Chichester office itself, we've got some high-profile colleagues. So the national head of the family team is actually based in our Chichester office, and the national head of our lifetime and estate planning team is also based in Chichester. So again, not every role and is based in London, and it can be in a regional office as well. So we have lots of high profile cases that we deal with in Chichester, in particularly my team. The quality of work doesn't matter where the work is. Our clients are just as important, and the quality of work is just as high. We deal with estate disputes which are in the millions of pounds. We deal with court work that is based in London, and some of it's based regionally, so that has no impact either. We act for some very high profile clients in the Chichester office, and again, just because we're outside of London, that doesn't have an impact, because not every high profile client or high net worth client lives in London. We've got a lot of families and farming families and a lot of businesses in the area, so there's a lot of clients that need our help locally, and clients sometimes prefer that because obviously they might want to come in to see you, so working in a regional base means you're there for the clients. But as people have said as well, just because you're regional doesn't mean that you won't have any involvement in London. I actually work with the London team as well, but before I took on that more formal role, I was often in London for events. So there's nothing to stop you travelling to, to BD networking events, so you can build your profile. I also have a number of cases that involve London firms, so you're raising your profile by working on those matters as well. So there's travel involved, but again, Chichester has great links as well to London, so it's quite easy to travel from Chichester. But it also means that we're nicely placed between several of our offices. So we've got Southampton, we've got our new Brighton office, which I also am lucky enough to work in, and London. So when you're based in a regional office, there's really opportunity to kind of work in different places, and that helps raise your profile with different teams and different colleagues, and you can raise your profile nationally in doing so. Legal directories are very important for clients and for referrals as well, and being based in Chichester has never hindered our directories entry. Our WTED team, as it's known, is ranked tier 1 for the South, which just shows that the quality of work we have and the referrers we have makes no difference to where we're based. I think as also been mentioned, there's lots of opportunity to build up a strong community network. We have lots of business groups. We have law societies based in the south, not just in Chichester, but in Worthing, Southampton, so across the south coast. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved with those kind of additional third-party groups to help build profile for the firm and for yourself. It possibly gives you a broader network, I think, working outside of London, because it means that you have access to those groups that perhaps only welcome people who live or work in those regions. But again, it means you build up your network locally. You're likely to have knowledge of the local area, which clients can really appreciate, and it helps you in your work, as Sophie was saying. But also then you still have access to the wider groups in London, who generally will welcome applicants from all over the UK. So that doesn't hinder you at all. It also doesn't prevent you from joining any of the groups that are associated with the area of law that you might be working in. So currently, you might have heard of STEP, which is the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners. I'm a member of STEP. I qualified in STEP, as did lots of colleagues across the firm, not just London. And I actually sit on one of the special interest group committees. And again, they're not London-centric, and in fact, they're international. So as long as you you work to increase your profile and you look at all opportunities, then there's nothing to stop you achieving anything that you want being based outside of London. So Chichester generally, it's a lovely place to work. Again, you get that benefit of being out of the city. You can feel like you're in the countryside. It's a nice commute, but you still get the benefit of going into London as and when is needed. So you kind of get that city atmosphere and profile raising, but you don't have to actually live up there if you don't want to, which personally I've never wanted to. I can't speak for Reading too far, but I would say that they have a fantastic private client offering as well. So a great hub for private client work if that's what you're looking, and if you're closer to Reading. And we work across all offices. So it's not just a case that if you're working in Chichester or Reading, then that's it. We work across all offices. So the WTED team is a national team. So as Alice mentioned earlier, she was a paralegal in our team and I supervised her. You worked with all people across the team. So it doesn't matter where you're based. You could be involved in high profile cases that are coming out of Birmingham or Leeds, or it could be London, but you don't necessarily have to be in those centres to be doing that. So hopefully that helps a bit. I'm going to pass on to Mia, who's our current trainee in our team in Chichester as well.
Hi everyone. So I'm a first year trainee based in the Chichester office, and I'm currently in my first seat in the Wills Trust and Estate Disputes team. So I'm originally from Surrey, and I went to Bournemouth University to study my law degree. I got my first paralegal job in Bournemouth, as I thought that was where that I wanted to live. So I stayed after university, but after a year, I realised that that probably wasn't the place that I was going to settle down. So I moved back to Surrey, and then got a paralegal job at Owen Mitchell in the Chichester office. That was in the lifetime and estate planning team. And then a year later, I started my training contract. So there is a bit of a commute for me going to work because I don't live locally to Chichester, but I still attend the office at least 3 times a week. And the reason that I chose the Chichester office is because I knew that I was going to settle somewhere more down south. I love being by the sea, and that's always been the place that I know that I will end up living. And I thought it was quite important for me to establish myself in the place that I know that I will be continuing my career. Raising your profile really early on, I think, is really important. So I'm building relationships with local businesses, local communities, so our clients, charities, things like that. So that's the reason that I decided to apply for Chichester. Similar to Sam, I didn't apply for London purely because I don't see myself living in London. So I knew that that automatically ruled it out for me. Um, from a trainee perspective, the office is a smaller office, but the opportunities that I've had so far as a trainee have not been affected by the fact that this is a smaller office. Everyone knows everyone in the Chichester office, and being a junior lawyer is really important that you have a great support network. And I can honestly say that I'm happy to go and speak to anyone in the Chichester office if I have any questions or if I just need a bit of support with anything. Then there's so many people that you can go to talk to. Um, in addition to that, the teams work really closely together. So if you've got a question and it's kind of going into another area, you can just go up to the team and ask them, which is really nice. There's a lot of crossover, so we work closely together. So whilst you're in one seat, you might still get some experience in a different team. So that's really beneficial being a trainee, because obviously you want to learn as much as you possibly can. That means that actually you might end up being exposed to more things than what you would be in London, because we work so closely together and everything's a bit more integrated. So that's a big positive. You can, I think building relationships with clients is really important because it's a smaller office and we're in a local town and a community, then you can build up those relationships. And for me, that was quite important because that's one of my favourite part of the job, being able to meet clients regularly. A lot of our clients like to actually come into the office, and I really like that. I can honestly say that the trainees in London, I don't think that they get any more opportunities than what we do in the regional offices. Like Sam said, there's all of our colleagues regularly travel to wherever any networking events might be, if that's something that they want to attend. As a trainee, you can just, if you see something that you are interested in, and if it works with the team, you can bring that to your supervisor and ask to attend. Majority of the time, if it looks beneficial and it's something that you really want to do, then you'll be able to attend. So there's definitely not any restriction on the opportunities that we get. In terms of support from fellow trainees, so obviously at the moment, me and Jemima are the first year trainees in our Chichester office, so there's only 2 of us. But we have so many Teams groups and regularly scheduled Teams calls with other trainees across the whole of the business. So I certainly don't feel isolated being a trainee in a regional office. Whilst it might be far away on the map, we do communicate regularly, and it is part of Owen Mitchell's culture for everyone to be there to support each other, and they encourage communication with everyone across the business. So even now, being in the wills, trust and estate disputes team, as Sam was saying, it's a national team. So we've got a group for all WTED trainees, and we put questions in there where they need any help, or if someone's got experience, then you can call them and they'll show you how to do certain things. And from what I've seen so far, we're all doing and getting exposed to the same work. So it's not as though you're missing out on anything being from a smaller office, because everyone works together. And like Sam was saying, we've got high net worth clients, and the opportunities from the first 2 months of my training contract, I've been able to tick off so many things from my training checklist. So that's been really beneficial, and I think the opportunities that I've been given have not been restricted. So yeah, that is why I chose Chichester. I'm going to pass over to Andrew and Harriet from our Gatwick office.
Thanks, Mia. I'm Andrew Walker. I'm a partner at Owen Mitchell and National Head of Restructuring and Insolvency. I'm probably, oh, actually, no, there's one other person that's been here longer than me that's on this call. One of the longest serving members at Owen Mitchell. I joined the firm in 1992 when we only had one office, which was in Sheffield. But again, as some other people have mentioned, the reason I joined was the variety of work that the training contract at Owen Mitchell provided. I grew up in a small village in the countryside, just on the outskirts of Huddersfield. I went to Cambridge University and studied law. The natural path from Cambridge is normally to go into London, go to the city. That wasn't something that appealed to me, either in terms of living in London or in terms of the culture and the amount of work, i.e. 6 days a week, no evenings free, no Saturday free, didn't really appeal to me. So I joined Owen Mitchell in Sheffield in 1992, as I said, and qualified into the commercial litigation department. But by that point, I'd started receiving insolvency work. At the time, Owen Mitchell didn't have an insolvency department, so I helped to grow that. I left Sheffield in around 2004 and relocated to our Leeds office. One of the great things about having a national footprint is we've talked about regional offices and particular regional offices, but I've actually worked in 3 different offices of Owen Mitchell, and it's given me the opportunity to actually live in different places, but still staying with the firm rather than having to leave the firm and move to a different firm when I wanted to live somewhere else. So with the Leeds office, I said in 2004, and then 2017, so I don't know whether I've got a 12-year itch, moved as far south as I could without falling into the sea. So moved down to Brighton to work in our Gatwick office, which is less than 25-minute commute. And then very recently, we opened an office in Brighton, which takes me 15 minutes to walk there from my house. I can thoroughly recommend living in Brighton. I live 10 minutes from the beach. I live a 15-minute walk from the town centre. I live a 10-minute drive from the South Downs. So there's everything there that you could ever want. Brighton has more than 350 pubs. So you can go to a different one every day if you like. It has a very thriving music and comedy scene, great restaurants, bars, independent shops. And it's an hour from London. Gatwick is only half an hour from London. So if you're interested in going in and out of London, I like to visit London, and I do tend to come into London 1 day a week to work, but I don't want to live there. Within Gatwick, we have the full range of legal services in terms of private clients and BSG, although we don't have personal injury within our Gatwick office. In terms of quality of work, well, we work on a national basis. We've recently been looking at some statistics. We were the fourth most active firm for contentious insolvency work That's in the courts across the country. In the whole of the UK, we have one of the largest restructuring insolvency teams in the UK with over 40 people, and we work on a national basis. So it doesn't really matter where you are located. If we do restructuring insolvency there, you will be involved in some very high-profile cases. Very recently, a lot of what we do is actually highly confidential, as you might imagine. Very recently, we've just been involved in a restructuring where there was a fraud, but as the company was owned by a very well-known TV personality, that individual paid several £1 million to the lender, so the company could continue trading despite the fraud that had taken place. Probably one of the most high-profile ones that I can talk about publicly, and some of you might have seen a television series called Gold, or you may have seen a documentary about an individual called John Palmer. So Gold was a series about the Brinks Mat bullion robbery, and John Palmer was also known as Goldfinger because he smelted all the gold. Eventually, having been involved in various timeshare frauds in the Canary Islands, Mr. Palmer was made bankrupt, and I dealt with his bankruptcy, which had some very interesting aspects to it. And for once, my young daughter thought that I had a cool job, because normally she doesn't think what I do is cool. So yes, totally recommend the Gatwick. Brighton office is part of the Gatwick office as well. So I split my time between those two offices. I'll now hand over to Harriet.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Sussex through and through. I went to Sussex University where I did my undergraduate law degree, and then I did a master's in journalism and documentary practice. I found Irwin Mitchell, and I was very pleased to find them. I think they're really unique. The fact that you've got a national reach, but all these regional outlets where, as Andrew explained, you've got the quality of the work, you've got such connectivity in the sense that everyone, I mean, even this call, we've got all the offices on here. It genuinely is, as a culture, so connected. So yeah, I'm from Sussex. For me, it was a case of making it work. So obviously it's a difficult time applying for training contracts, and I myself have caring responsibilities. It was really important to be close to home, and I feel like Irwin Mitchell for me just ticked all the boxes. The fact that you're in the Gatwick Diamond, as Andrew said, you've got really good connections via train, and there's so much that you can get involved with. And I think being a smaller office, as a culture as well, you're really encouraged to get involved with charity events. We have multiple different networks that you can sign up and get involved with. So there's an image of us all there doing a Brighton beach clean. Some more people not pictured, but you're encouraged to do these events and get out into the community. And being in Gatwick, I go to events in London, I go to events in Brighton. You're not limited, although you're a Gatwick-based trainee, you can still go out, you can still network. It is really fantastic, and I don't see any limitations. And for me, I'm very pleased with my decision that I chose Irwin Mitchell and I chose Gatwick office. And then I think we'll pass on to the next office. Thanks.
Hello, you're now with Leeds. My name is Michelle Beaumont and I'm a partner in the real estate team based here in Leeds. I did my degree at Huddersfield University a good few years ago now. I joined Irwin Mitchell in 2019. Prior to that, I was at Pinsent Masons for in excess of 13 years. The work that we have in our Leeds office is practically all areas. We've got banking and finance, corporate, commercial and IP, real estate, litigation, employment, as well as restructuring, serious injury, medical negligence, corporate protection, the list goes on. So reasons for the office. Well, I was born in Leeds and I've never ever left Leeds. I'm a development lawyer and I've worked on national projects all over the country, from South Coast right up to Newcastle and beyond. I've never had to leave Leeds. One of the reasons I chose Leeds was because it's got a fantastic reputation in terms of law. So there's no real reason for me to go to London. In terms of our practice and the clients that we act for, I work for a number of household names in terms of house builders, such as Gleeson. We've just recently acquired a site for them for 900. on which 919 homes will be built. I act for Vistra BLC. We act for a Singaporean investor, the largest investor listed on the Singaporean Stock Exchange. We act for Persimmon Homes. We act for care home providers. The quality of the work here is really good. And if you do need to travel to London, it's less than 2 hours away if you get the 7 a.m. train. I'm going to hand over to Hannah now.
Hi guys, so I was born in Lincoln and went to university at Nottingham. So unlike some people on this call, obviously I'm in the Leeds office now, but it's not where I'm local to. So when I was choosing where to apply for training contracts at, when I went to uni, I was very much, I want to work in London, I want to be earning like big salaries straight away. But with COVID and everything at uni, it just made me realize a lot more the value of being closer to home, closer to friends and family, and having more of a work-life balance, which obviously is something that you don't get usually as much as of in London. So I was then choosing between Leeds and Manchester, kind of spread my training contract applications across the two cities, and got obviously the one in Leeds for Owen Mitchell. And I'm very happy that I did. One of the big reasons I was looking at Leeds was because one thing I like to do is go out for food. That's a big thing for me, and Leeds is a big foodie capital. And in terms of just like things like commute, obviously a lot of people choose London because you see the bigger salaries, but that money gets eaten up in rental prices and travel. With Leeds, I literally live like an 8-minute walk from the office, which is not something that I could do in London. So those are the main reasons that I chose Leeds. And in terms of quality of work, just as a trainee, I've been working on such big projects, things that Michelle has mentioned. We've worked with banking on different matters. So then you're working cross-departmental wise. We went to an Insider Awards thing just a couple of weeks into me working in the seat. So that was amazing. I don't feel like at all that there's any disadvantage of working in the cities. I actually think that you get all of the benefits of working in London, you get the same quality of work, but you also can have more of a work-life balance and aren't spending as much on everything. So I definitely think regional offices for me was definitely something that I wanted to go ahead with. And I just think it's important that obviously some firms, they do have their main quality of work in London and then have satellite offices in the regions. But firms like Owen Mitchell, you're getting just as good quality of work across all the offices. So yeah, I think we're going to pass across to Newcastle now, I believe.
Hello everyone, greetings from an absolutely freezing Newcastle today. I'm Laura McElduff, I'm a partner in the serious injury team in Newcastle, and I'm also the early careers regional representative for Newcastle. So had I not been going off on mat leave in January, if you were applying for Newcastle, you probably would have seen me at some point during the assessment process for training contracts next year. Just to give you a little bit of a background about me, I was one of those who didn't do a law degree, had no idea what I wanted to do when I finished my A-levels. So I did an English Lit degree at Newcastle Uni and then converted into law at Northumbria via the GDL. And then when I was doing the GDL, happened to attend a law fair, saw Owen Mitchell, read a bit more about them and applied, and was one of those really irritating but lucky people who got a training contract first time I applied. So finished my LPC at Northumbria and then started straight away for a training contract in Newcastle. So at the time, I chose Newcastle because, like a couple of other people have said, personal circumstances meant I had caring responsibilities at the time. So it worked for me. But obviously, the appeal of Greggs is obviously extremely important. So another reason to stay in Newcastle. The office itself has grown significantly since I started 13 years ago. And we've got quite a few teams in the office now. So we've got our personal injury teams, which are serious injury and asbestos and occupational disease, medical negligence, court of protection and public law, and our private client teams, which is the lifetime and estate planning team. And we've also just acquired Silk Family Law, so we now have a family law offering in Newcastle as well. We're one of the smaller offices. I say small, there's about 140 to 150 of us in Newcastle, but not at any one time because we all work different days in the office since COVID. And we've got some exceptional lawyers and leaders in the field. So we regularly win awards at the Northern Law Awards since that began, and we're recognised in a lot of the legal directories. So we are a fantastic office if you want to learn from the best at what we do in the North East. Because of the profile we've got as well, we attract some really, really top quality cases, and we're often in the press as well. So if you're local to the North East, you might have seen Owen Mitchell's name popping up every now and again. And finally, we're really friendly, and you can pretty much approach anyone in Newcastle and ask for help or learn from them, and we're more than happy to help out. So that's a huge benefit of working with us, and we have a really good work-life balance as well. So I live on the coast and I can take my dog for dog walks after work on the beach and not be worrying about emails. So a huge benefit to working more regionally than in London, although I'm sure London, they must enjoy some social time outside of work as well. Anyway, you've heard from me. Over to Amber, who is a second year trainee in Newcastle and was also supervised by me. So any good things, Amber, please?
Hi everyone, thanks Laura. Yeah, as Laura said, I'm a second year trainee. I'm currently doing my third seat in the court protection team in Newcastle. Before that, I was in workplace illness for my first seat and then working under Laura for my second seat in the serious injury team. My background is I was born in Lincolnshire. I obviously don't sound like I'm from Lincolnshire. My dad was in the forces, so we moved around quite a lot when I was before I started school. But my parents are from the northeast, so we did move back when I was in school. And I've lived here ever since. I have quite a similar background to Laura in terms of education. So I also come from a non-law background. I did English literature as well at Newcastle University because I too had no idea what I wanted to do at the time. I thought it was quite an all-encompassing subject, so I thought I could decide later on and not have to worry about that. I also did I did a graduate diploma in law at Northumbria after that. And then I got a paralegal job with Owen Mitchell. So unlike Laura, I did work at IM before I started my training contract. So I worked here for 6 years before I started my training contract last year. The reason that I've chose Newcastle, really, the main draw for me was wanting to be near family and friends, something that's really important to me. And I always knew that I'd kind of want to bring my own family up here as well, from my own experiences living here with my family. The main reasons that I really like living and working in Newcastle, some of what Laura's already said. The Newcastle office is really centrally located. We're a brand new office. We only opened in July, I think it was. It's really centrally located. We can see St James's Park from our window. I can't see it from where I'm sat right now, but we can see it from the window, which as a Sunderland fan for me is quite difficult to take sometimes, but the view is really nice. It's a lovely office. And as Laura said, it's a really nice place to come to work. You can approach anyone no matter how busy they are, what their level is. And yeah, it's just really, really nice. And in terms of the location and the commute, for me, I live just on the suburbs, so kind of a graduate student area. And I can be door to door at the office in 50 minutes. So if it's a nice day, I can walk in. If I can't be bothered, I'll get the bus. It takes me 20 minutes, which is really, really good in terms of kind of the work-life balance and that Owen Mitchell do like to promote. It's really, really nice. I can be home finish at 5, I can be home by 5:30. So that's really, really nice. And as Laura said, in my opinion, Newcastle and Northumberland have some of the best beaches in the country. So you can be there. I can be at the beach from my house within 20 minutes. Countryside's not too far away. So it's really nice kind of for well-being just to get out, walk the dog after work and not just kind of walk around the streets. and things like that. And then the other thing in terms of what I really like about working in Newcastle, living in Newcastle, is the cost of living. I do appreciate that the training in NQ pay in London is more than the regional offices, but the housing market up here is really affordable. I can save. I'm getting married in a couple of years. I can save for my wedding. I can save for a house and still just kind of do the things that I enjoy outside of work and not worry about kind of finances and things like that. And leading on to kind of social life and doing things that I enjoy. The social scene in Newcastle is really good. As Laura said, everyone's really friendly. It's really easy to meet people. The circle, even though it's a smaller city, there's a lot of opportunity to get involved in things. There's not just kind of lawyers groups either. There's a young professionals forum that I'm part of, so you can meet people in different sectors, which is just really good for kind of networking, getting experience about things like that. And the colleagues in Newcastle, the junior colleagues, are really good at letting each other know when things are coming up, so you can attend together. But yeah, it's just a really, really nice community feel up here, I think, with it being a smaller city, and I love working here. But yeah, I'll pass on to Sheffield now.
Thank you. And last but not least, Sheffield and Manchester. I'm Danny Revitt. I head the National Real Estate Disputes team at Irwin Mitchell, with a team of 17 people working nationally based across Sheffield, Leeds, Manchester and London. I was brought up, well, I was actually born in Manchester, so there's a Manchester connection, but I was brought up in Stoke-on-Trent, where my mum's family are from. My dad's side of the family from Sheffield, so Sheffield had a pull that led me to go to Sheffield University and do a law degree at Sheffield. I did a year at Chester Law College and then came back to Sheffield to do my training contract as another local firm. And then I joined Irwin Mitchell as a one-year qualified, 1991. So I think I'm the person who pipped Andrew by a year, although I worked with Andrew in the early days. And I've been here ever since. Teams with a presence in Sheffield include, on the business side, Real Estate Disputes, my team, Real Estate Transactional, Restructuring and Insolvency, part of Andrew's team, Employment, Commercial Disputes, Regulatory and Criminal Investigations, and then on the private client side, the personal side, Serious Injury, Medical Negligence, Court of Protection, Public Law, Asbestos and Occupational Disease, Family, Wills, Trust and Estate Disputes and Partnerships, Wills and Probate. So a very, very broad coverage from Sheffield. In terms of why Sheffield, I did consider London, I must admit, but it was a very natural move to me to come back to Sheffield due to my university and family connections. But a bit more specifically, why Sheffield? Unlike Georgina, I can't really say it was because of cheaper haircuts, because my haircuts are free wherever I go. However, like many other people, the easy commute certainly is an attraction. I can be in the office in the car 15 to 20 minutes, on the bus in 15, 20 minutes. I can actually run into the office in a little bit longer time, and it is downhill. So I must admit that one time I tried to run back to the home from the office, I did have to catch a bus halfway because it was proving too much. But on that point, it's known as the outdoor city. We're also 15 to 20 minutes journey from the countryside, peak districts around. It's a real attraction for those who enjoy walking, climbing and so on. But it's the fourth largest city in the country, so it's still got a real commercial feel. It tends to be known as a big village where everywhere you go, personally and business-wise, you seem to know lots of people. It's a very warm place. There are actually over 1,000 people based in the Sheffield office. And if you can imagine, about 800 of those go to our Christmas party. That's got a fairly good reputation in the city. I won't say notorious, I'll just say good. Quality of work, really important thing to emphasise. Over my career, I've worked for, well, still do, for Ferrero, the chocolate maker, Thornton's, River Island, the clothing retailer, Dobby's Garden Centres, Logical, an international company, owns lots of industrial estates. Two very big house builders, developers who have their national HQ in Sheffield, as well as Erwin Mitchell. That's Gleeson and Henry Boot. Work for the local university, Sheffield Hallam, and also the organisation that owns all of the sporting sort of venues like the ice rink and the swimming pond sports swimming pool, the arena, City Hall. So there's lots and lots of good quality work in Sheffield, and it's certainly not harmed my career progression. I run a national team from Sheffield, some of whom are based in London. Still get the chance to visit London, as other people have said. 2 weeks ago, we met in London for a training day with barristers and a social, and only this weekend I was entertaining clients from around the country at Twickenham for the rugby. So you certainly get all of the opportunities to still go to London, to visit the London office and to do events in London. And I will now pass on to Elisa, who's a trainee in my team. And as said before, hopefully you'll say some nice things, Elisa.
Of course, thanks, Danny. My name is Elisa and I'm a second year trainee in the Sheffield office. So I studied my LLB law degree at the University of Sheffield and then my LPC master's degree at the University of Law. I secured my training contract during my master's degree. So before that started, I actually moved to Manchester for a year before returning to Sheffield again. So why Sheffield? Well, I think it's a really good transitional city to go into your next stage of life after education. It's still got great bars and pubs, but it also has lovely cafes, independent shops and restaurants, places to watch or play many different sports. For me personally, the main pull here is the outdoor and green space. I'm a 10-minute walk into the city centre and also a 10-minute drive into Peak District National Park. I have 3 lovely local parks within a 25-minute walk from me, and there are so many more within the city. Sheffield's also in quite an exciting regeneration stage at the moment, so I think it's a really exciting time to be a young professional here, and hopefully it will continue to grow as a great place to do business. I do really like London as a city, but as others have already mentioned, I've been there many times for work, so opportunities are still there for you to be involved. Danny has spoken about the quality of work in Sheffield, and since starting my training contracts, it has been fantastic. I've worked on high quality, high value work, and depending on the team that you're in, you might operate on a national basis anyway, or collaborate with other teams regularly. So you do get the opportunity to work on matters that have come from all over the country. My main piece of advice to people listening today would be to think about what pace of life you want as well, and to consider whether your chosen city aligns with that. Thanks, George.
Thanks, everyone. I feel like we've been on a tour of England. That's been amazing to hear about all the different cities and offices that we have. I'm very conscious of time, so I just wanted to summarise the end of our presentation and obviously go through whether you're considering working outside of London or inside of London, and go through those different areas that we talked about at the beginning. So obviously we said people worry that outside of London about the quality of work, and hopefully you've heard today that you do get this outside of London. There is that quality of work. That is not something you need to worry about. The salary, as Amber said, yes, there is a difference, but with that comes that higher cost of living. The social life, hopefully you've heard there is plenty of social life happening outside of London. Outside of London, it can be a bit cheaper, and obviously inside of London, you tend to have a bit of a longer commute home, and taxi journeys will certainly be more expensive. The team support that you get is there definitely outside of London. Those smaller teams mean that you'll get that extra, in terms of work, you'll get that extra level of being involved in the projects that you're working on, or the cases or the deals. In terms of networks, there are plenty of networks, internal and external, from all of our officers that you've heard from today. And obviously that building your network, building your profile. We have lots of people who've been mentioned in Legal 500 and Chambers from all of our officers, heads of our departments. A lot of them are not in London, are in our regional offices. So hopefully you've heard all those good reasons why you should consider working outside of London. We did have some pre-submitted questions, but I think we've hopefully answered all of those going through the different offices today. Conscious of time, so I'm going to call it for the end of the session, but thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully you will make that application to one of our offices outside of London. Thank you, everyone.